What's going on, everybody? My name is Rico. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my channel is about vlogs, series and tutorials. And in this episode I'm going to show you guys how to turn your pet into a masterpiece. And this is the lovely image of my dog that we're going to work with. I'm going to show you guys how to go from this image, so this is the original, to this image, which is the edited version. There's a huge difference. Let me take a snapshot by clicking this over here. Let's activate the snapshot. Let's click the original layer and let me show you guys. So the left side is the new side, the right side is the old side. So let me drag it to the side. And just look at that, what a difference, and what a pretty dog that I have. So let's start. So I'm going to compress the history stack, and now everything that I've done is now gone. So I'm going to deselect the snapshot, and this is the image that we're going to work with. First thing that I want to do is I want to change the basic settings of this image, and for that I'm going to use a basic adjustment module. If you don't see it over here, like I have, go to more modules and then find them in the list down below. This will only work if you have Darktable 2.7. If you don't have Darktable 2.7, you can find the changes in separate modules, like the exposure module, like the contrast, brightness and saturation module. So let's start by going to the basic adjustments module, and now let me activate it. There are a couple of things I want to change. The first thing is the black level. I want to change the black level a little bit to increase the blacks and to increase a little bit of contrast. I'm going to increase it by, let's say, 0.0030. And the second thing that I want to change the exposure by 0.5, so I'm increasing the exposure by a half stop. I'm going to keep the highlight compression not to 0, but I'm going to put it on 100 to preserve the highlights. And I'm going to increase a little bit of contrast by 0.2. And what this does is it makes the image a little bit darker, but it makes it sharper as well. And it just increases the overall feeling of the image. Now the middle gray point you can change around, or you can use the picker menu. I'm just going to change this around. Watch what happens if I drag this to the right. The image becomes more dark, and if I drag it to the left, the image becomes way more lighter. For this I'm just going to subtly lighten it a little bit, like so. I think that looks pretty fine. I'm going to keep the brightness on 0. I'm going to increase the saturation. So watch what happens to the colors, because the saturation is something that affects the colors in the image. So I'm just going to subtly change it to 0.2. And now there was a slight difference between the previous and the last one. Let me show you guys what it looks if I deactivate the module. You see, everything becomes a lot more duller. The contrast is gone. The colors from the leaves are gone. And if I activate it, the image is already popping a little bit more. So the second thing I want to change is I want to change the tone curve. And I want to change the shadows a little bit, the midtones area and the highlights area. So I'm going to increase contrast by dropping the shadows a little bit. It darkens the image as well. But what we can do is I want to change or brighten up the midtones. So for that I'm just going to drag this point up, like so. Maybe that's a little bit too strong. And now it already starts to look like the image that I've shown you guys before. Let me show you guys by selecting the snapshot. You see? So this is the image how it will turn out. And this is where we're at right now. So we've got a great starting point. So let me deselect this again and let's continue. I'm going to change this point a little bit as well in the highlights. Just a little bit, just very subtly. I'm going to keep everything else as is. Now let's close down the tone curve module. And let's just sharpen his face. I want to keep everything else a little bit blurry. But I do want to sharpen his face. Because if I zoom in with Ctrl and then scrolling the mouse wheel button away from me, I can see that his face is not very sharp. I'm not quite sure why that is, but I want to change that. So for that I'm going to the Sharpen module. And let me activate it. But the thing I'm going to change is I'm going to change the radius to 5. Now watch what happens to the image. It becomes a lot more sharp. But I want to change the amount as well, from a half to, let's say, just a full one. And now it became a lot more sharp. Look what happened to his face. This is before and this is after. So very lovely, but I just want it to affect his face and not the entire image. So now it has affected the entire image. Let me show you guys a before. And let me show you guys an after. You can see it over here as well. There you go. But I just want to affect his face. The easiest way to do that is to use a drawn mask. So I'm going to click this symbol right here. And I'm going to use a brush. I'm going to add a brush. And this is a very small brush. You can scroll the mouse wheel button towards you to increase the brush and away from you to decrease it. But let's just increase it. And now what I want to do is I just want to paint over his face. Like so. Just keep the mouse button pressed. Just going to follow the lines of his face. Maybe his ear as well. Like so. And I always start with the outer lines as good as possible. And just keep the mouse button pressed in. If you don't do that, you can add another brush by pressing the control button. There you go. I don't really have steady hands as you can see, but let me fill in the rest of his face just to make sure that we're affecting everything we want to affect. There we go. Maybe a little bit to the side. There we go. Now I'm going to release the mouse button. And now the changes are only being applied to his face. If you click this symbol right here, you will deselect the show button and now you can see what's being affected. So if we deselect this module right now or we deactivate it, now you see his face is a little bit more blurry. If you activate it, it's a lot more sharp. So I kind of like how this looks. Let's move on to the next module. The next module that I'm going to use is the haze module. I'm going to remove the haze. So for that, I see it's not over here. So we're going to more modules. Now let's find the haze removal, which is this one. Let's click it. And now it's added to our favorites menu. And let's open it up. And let's just activate it. And watch what happens to the image. Boom! It completely changed. Look, it's a very strong effect. Deselecting it. Activating it. It's a little bit too strong for my taste, so I'm going to change the strength to 0.2. And now the changes are a little bit more subtle, but I can still show you a before and after. So let me deactivate the module. This is without the haze removal. This is with the haze removal. So we got a lot more contrast over here as well. It's a little bit more popping. And now what I want to do is, I don't really like how this spot looks on his face. It looks like drool or something. I don't like it. So for that, I'm going to use the spot removal. And you can find the spot removal in the corrections menu. And let's just find it in the list. Spot removal. Here it is. Let's open it. And for this, I'm going to use the pause tool. I'm going to activate it. And I'm just going to click around it and watch what happens. Let's see if this works. If this looks good. Like so. Right mouse button to close down the mask, and that's a bit too strong. This is the donor area, so I want to click this area and move it a little bit more to the side like so, and there we have it. So if I close down this module, you see now it's gone and it looks a lot better. So let me go back to over here, fit the screen, and now it's gone. Let me show you a before and after by clicking this. This is the before and this is the after. And I think that looks great. Now there are three things I want to change in this image. I want to add a little bit more contrast again. So for that, I'm going to use the local contrast module. So let me open it up. I'm going to activate it and watch what happens to the image. A little bit of contrast has been added. I'm going to keep this on 120%. I use it on 150% a lot as well, but for this, the image is already very contrasty like and very colorful. So I'm going to keep it as is. I really wanted to make my dog pop. There's two things I'm going to change concerning the colors. The first thing is the vibrance. I'm going to activate it and I'm going to increase it to 50%. And the second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to activate the Velvia module. And I'm going to keep that on 25%. And that looks absolutely amazing. I want to change the brightness a little bit because I do think it's a little bit dark. So for that, I'm going to the exposure module rather than the basic adjustments module. I'm just going to add some exposure. 0.2, and now it's a lot more brighter. So let's watch what happens if I deactivate it, and now watch what happens when I activate it. That's a lot better. Maybe I can change a little bit of the distortion. It's very subtle, but I do see it. So for that, I'm going to use the lens correction module. And the lens correction module allows you to take away any of the distortions that an image might have due to the lens that you've used. In this case, I was using my Nikon D5600, which I already sold, together with the 35mm lens. So I'm going to click this. I'm going to find it in the list down below because it doesn't do it automatically. So we're going to Nikon 35mm 1.8 DX, click it, and now the image has been flattened out a little bit from the sides. Let me show you a before and after. So I'm going to deactivate it. This is the before. Now I'm going to activate it. This is the after, and that's how you can edit an image of your favorite pet. And that's it. I hope you guys liked it. Let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. And I guess there's just one more thing left for me to say, which is make love to the like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hit that bell button to be the first to be notified when I drop in a video. And until next time, doei!